I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And today we're going to be talking about, is there hope for her to come back? Well, obviously, Margaret, one of the most difficult aspects of a breakup is not knowing.
Of course.
Am I going to get another chance?
Right.
Will they change their mind? Will they come back? Is there any hope? And of course, when we're doing a coaching, there's tons of factors that we're going to look at when we're talking to you, or if I'm doing an email coaching. And, you know, we've been doing this for a very long time, so we look at a lot of different things and we listen for a lot of things, you know? Right. And we understand why you're overwhelmed with the not knowing and the uncertainty. I've lived it, and it's awful. One of the things I want to say before I get into this email coaching is, do not assume that your ex's interest level will stay the same. In other words, even though her interest level or their interest level may be low now, it doesn't mean it will be the same 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, whatever.
Very good point.
And people
Very good point.
make a big mistake when they give up on the personal growth because their interest level is low right now. In fact, I had a guy a couple days ago who did just that. We did a call about 5 months ago, got the workbooks. He was really motivated at the beginning, got into the second one. I think he finished the second one. And he suspects that his wife is dating somebody else now. And so he quit. He just stopped doing the work.
He said, what's the point if she's dating somebody else?
Exactly. And I really had to be tough with him because he was focusing on a lot of the wrong things instead of what he can do to better himself and to improve the chances. Because I, as we talked, saw mixed messages from the wife. And it wasn't as clear if there was somebody in the background in this particular situation. And they had a kid together. So I'm like, you know, there's a good chance if you can turn around your behavior and really work through your issues, she can consider you guys again. Right,
because it's not like they're going to be estranged totally. They're
parents
together.
Exactly. Yeah. So I said, you know, focus on who you want to be 5 months from now, not who you are now, not who you were 5 months ago. Think about if you do the work for the next 5 months, who you will be at that moment. And he really started to see how he could do things differently to improve the chances.
But his first response was to be concerned about the new love.
Exactly.
And it's sometimes very difficult to get beyond that. But that's more of a symptom than a cause.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And he was making himself crazy because they're on WhatsApp together. And so he would literally just sit at the computer all night and watch her go on and off WhatsApp because it will show him a notification. In other words, if she signs on to send somebody a message, it lights up. And so he just sits there all night watching it. And I'm like, but what does that change? What does that do? It doesn't change anything between you, right?
It gives him some sense of control.
Yeah. And I said, instead of that, do the workbooks. Think about how much time you've wasted just sitting there staring.
Work on yourself.
Yeah.
It's got to be for you, not for her.
Absolutely.
If you can start with it when it's for her to get her back, that's fine. But as you go on, it's for you.
And he was really struggling with that, this guy that I'm talking about in particular. So I told him, if you can't do it for her and you can't do it for you, do it for your daughter.
I like that. Because whatever you start is good.
And I had to really get into him about if you don't change your behaviors, because there was a lot of insecure toxic, traumatic behavior in this relationship, your daughter's going to wind up in a relationship like you are.
Yep.
And that really hit home for him.
That worked for him.
Yes.
Good
So,
point. Yeah.
hopefully I'll do another call with him and I'll hear the motivation.
Good.
But I say all that just to get you to understand that if somebody's interest level is lower right now, it doesn't mean it's always going to stay that way.
And that can mean either you or your partner.
Yeah.
Yep.
It can fluctuate. It can go up and down, and you want to be ready for that opportunity if and when it does come.
Because it happens, I'm not interested in you today. I don't like you at all for what you did yesterday. But that could be different next week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because exes tend to be very, very cold when they're not interested. Okay? But if there's some interest there, that's when you see little warm-ups like indirect, direct approaches.
Yeah.
Right? So I got an email coaching today. Now, this couple has been together for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Okay? And they've been married roughly 75% of that time. Now, he's close to his 40s. She's in her late 20s. And this is what he says. He said, "My wife left me 7 weeks ago. She made out with a male coworker. Didn't have sex." He puts that in quotations, and I'm not so sure I believe that.
No, me either.
Okay? He says, "Issues with me. We aren't a team. I made a handful of financial decisions without her. Left 2 jobs during our marriage without having a backup plan."
Oh, my.
So I could see why she'd be angry at him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because
Yep.
he just quits a job, and then he puts all the burden and responsibility of paying the bills on her, when the responsible thing would have been to get another job. It seems like he took advantage of her in a way.
It does. I'm sure that's what she thinks.
Yeah.
He doesn't even tell me, and then he leaves me with this huge burden.
Yeah, because would you do that if you weren't married? Probably not. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because how would you pay your bills? You'd be homeless.
Right.
He says, "I leave all big decisions for her."
Oh. Okay.
So that wouldn't feel too good either. In other words, it's more of her taking care of him.
So he doesn't take a lot of responsibility.
Mm-hmm. "I'm unpredictable, unstable, and unable to meet her emotional needs."
Wow. Well, how honest of him.
Yeah. And it's good that he's taking a look at that, because
Good for him.
he's got to do it if he's going to reattract somebody, you know. But unpredictable, that must be scary.
Yes.
And it lines up with quitting the jobs without
Yes.
having a
Yeah.
backup.
I'm walking out right now,
Mhm.
you tyrant.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you can imagine it probably came up a lot in day-to-day life.
Mhm.
"We have different work schedules, so she felt disconnected." Okay. "Learned recently she has thought about leaving me for a while. Years, in fact. She said she gave me many chances, none which were communicated." I find that hard to believe.
I do too.
And it seems like he's blaming her that he didn't get the message.
Right. Yes. This guy does not take responsibility for his behavior. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
"She's been hinting." Well,
I always say when people tell me that, hinting never works. You got to hit people over the head if it's news they don't want to hear.
Yep.
Okay. Hinting will never do it.
he says no other cheating history. Her behavior since she left: cold, shut down, uncaring, unwilling to physically go inside of the house or see the dogs, refused to talk about the next step of the separation.
Wow.
Now, I got to tell you, I just feel, and I could be wrong here, I just feel a lot of manipulative behaviors going on with this guy.
I do too.
And right here, when he says she's unwilling to physically go inside of the house to see or see the dogs, seems like he was trying to use that to manipulate her.
To get her in the house.
Go see the dogs. Go, and you could see how she'd get angry about that.
Yeah.
And trying to get her to go inside the house. More of him trying to get like a control over this.
Yes.
But none of this is going to work.
No, it isn't.
and refused to talk about the next step of the separation. I think I said that. I was passed up for a promotion year one of our marriage. It really impacted me negatively. So it seems like there's some more blame going on there, right?
Yeah.
3 years ago, I was a victim of domestic abuse from my dad.
Oh my, and he's very much a grown man.
Yes, he is. So I don't know what happened with Dad.
Oh my, that's a big one.
Yes. And you can imagine that he must have had a very difficult childhood.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
2 days after that event, her father unexpectedly passed away. I went no contact for 6 weeks. We then had our therapy session last week. Unpacked items above. I mainly listened. I owned it. That's good.
Good boy. Good for you.
Yes. I shared where I was at. I still love her, want kids with her. We've been trying. I then said, we are making great progress, and if she'd like to meet again, if she's willing to take a step forward, a possible reconciliation. It was a flat out no.
You're pushing too hard, buddy. You're looking for a commitment now. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. This is not going to go well here. I then asked her, so you're not willing to extend me the same forgiveness that I extended to you after you were unfaithful?
Oh. Oh.
Margaret, go ahead.
Oh, you know. She's not going to be amused.
No.
He's putting it back on her yet again.
Sounds like a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
Right? There's some guilt, and it comes across as passive aggressive.
Yep.
Right?
And controlling.
Mm-hmm. She said, no, I am not. I don't owe you the same grace you extended towards me. I'm done. And he'd have to be very careful at this point.
Okay.
Because you could hear it too, right?
He's dug himself in.
Yeah.
By the shovelful. Yeah.
And I mean, if you're her, wouldn't you think the next thing out of her mouth would be, did you give me that same consideration when you quit those jobs?
Yeah.
Right? And all the things, all the unpredictable
Yeah,
behavior.
you want to talk about forgiveness, buddy. Let's make lists.
Yeah, let's keep going. I told her that I accept her decision. Let me know when she's ready for the next step. I contacted her family.
Oh, God.
Individually, thanked them, how much I love them, saying goodbye, essentially. I got really caring responses.
Well, he was looking for them to go back to her, of course.
And and try and get them on his side, I think.
Yeah.
I've gone no contact for 5 days since. Haven't heard from her. She hasn't changed anything on social media regarding status. Hasn't taken any steps to move forward with the divorce. Neither have I. I'll still want her back, but only if she agrees to get the same kind of help I've been receiving. Therapy and pastoral care. Okay?
Okay.
Well,
She doesn't want to come back, and you're giving her conditions.
Yes.
What part of this are you not hearing?
yes, and it's going to get worse, Margaret.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Give me about 5 seconds.
Okay.
Listen, what did she do in anything that you've described here, at least, that would suggest she needs therapy?
Right.
Right? I
Yes,
mean,
she hasn't done anything crazy that we've heard about.
exactly. The only thing that I'm hearing you really complain about her is that she didn't communicate well enough to you. Okay, here we go. Strap yourselves in. Only, here's a big one. Only if she confesses and owns up to everything on her end. She's only downplayed it at best. You're coming.
So he's blaming her.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's just coming across like he's entitled.
Yes, he is.
Okay? Mm-hmm. This woman, I don't know where you think she's at, but she's certainly not in this place of, I'm testing you, or I'm breaking up with you because she's angry and she's fed up and she's been looking for a way out for years.
Well, yeah. And I'm giving you conditions under which I'll take you back, but I just told you I didn't want to go back.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not like she's even saying, well, we'll talk about it. We could talk about things. She's
Nope.
flat out telling you no at this point. Okay? All right. Since I've sent this email after 10 days of no contact, my wife sent me this just now. So, I'm writing down how we should split things fairly. I can send it to you when I'm done. I think you should do the same so we can come to an agreement. I know we talked about going to a financial mediator, but I also don't want you to be surprised when we go. Or we can skip that and just go to a mediator to talk. My biggest thing is I don't want to go to lawyers. I think you and I can talk through everything and decide a fair plan without having to involve that. Margaret, is that not the most reasonable response you could expect from her?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
she's being very reasonable and fair here.
Yeah.
He described himself as a Jedi Knight, which is because he knows I'm a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And I responded to him by saying, perhaps a Jedi Knight, but not a Jedi Master.
Ah, good.
Because mastering your emotions seems to be a big issue for you here. And while I suspect, and you probably do too, he probably grew up in an abusive household.
And I'm just thinking, I'm sure he has been the victim in many human encounters, but I don't think it's with her.
Not from what I've read.
Yeah. And when we hear someone being abused in adulthood, which happens much more often than people realize, that's serious business and seriously hurtful.
Now, Margaret, they've been together for close to a decade. She knows him better than he knows himself.
Right.
And she probably sees a lot of the struggles that he has that he doesn't even know about yet. Because as far as I can see, and this isn't to be mean, he's pretty unaware.
Oh, he has no idea. Yeah, he doesn't genuinely understand what she's upset about.
Yeah. And while it seems like he's making a real effort to take some responsibility, he doesn't.
I missed that part.
Well, he did say, he validated it up here.
Yeah, that was about all he did. But then he wanted her to get into therapy.
Yeah. And I just feel like I hear a lot of blame on her, that this was all her fault, and yet everything points to bad behavior from him and not her.
Right. Well, I think in a desperate effort to get control, he's trying to give her conditions, and she's saying, "You're not giving me conditions for something I don't want to do."
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense. Yeah. It'd be like the phone company trying to get you to come over to them, and you're like, "I'm not interested," and they're like, "Well, I'm going to have to give you some conditions first."
Yeah.
And they're like, "I already said I'm not
Yeah.
interested." It doesn't make sense.
So she has no reason to think he's hearing her.
At this point, no.
Yeah.
At
And
this
I
point,
think
no.
that would be step one.
You want to expand on that?
Yeah. I think she can say to him, "It doesn't sound to me like you're hearing what I said to you. Do you want me to repeat it?" And not in a blaming kind of way, because it could easily turn into a blame game. Maybe it's hard for you, maybe it's hurtful for you, but I'm trying to communicate with you and I don't think you're hearing me. And that won't work for either one of us. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I got a sense that he really is looking at things, but it's not quite clicking yet.
He's trying to, but it ends up with a blame game. Now, God knows what this poor man has been blamed for in his life.
Yeah.
I think we should send his father for treatment and pastoral care before we do anything with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd have to deal with that whole thing before he could make a long-term relationship or a marriage work, I would think.
Yeah, I think at this point, obviously they've been together for a very long time.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to walk away from.
No, not for her either.
No, and if he can start to handle himself in a different light, she could see that. But at this point, based on what he's saying here, you could see that we were pretty frustrated by his responses with her.
Yeah. As I'm sure she was too.
Yeah. And so, be respectful going forward and just show her that you understand why she wasn't happy. You need to drop the conditions of entitlement that you're giving off here, because if we're picking it up,
oh heavens,
you can imagine how she's
and
feeling.
she's probably thinking, you have a heck of a nerve giving me conditions for something I don't want to do.
Yeah, and she's probably stored up so many or anger so much over the things that he's done over the years, quitting the jobs, being unpredictable, and all the other things that he had mentioned, making her make all the big decisions.
I don't think they're going to get by this without lawyers, to tell you the truth, either. I wonder what that's about. Lawyers will only make it worse. Maybe, maybe not, but...
Yeah. There seemed to be some real sincere care
Yes.
from her in this.
Yes, I thought so too.
Right?
She was trying to spare him from the lawyers, yes.
Yeah. So I do think she cares about this
I do
guy. She probably is just exhausted. And, you can't try and force her or manipulate her or guilt her. And you've done a lot of that. Mm-hmm. The dog, she won't come in the house. I wouldn't go in that house either if I was her.
Yeah, and he said he was unpredictable. We don't know really what that means. And she may be a little afraid.
Yeah. We don't know.
We don't know.
So, at this point, what I would do is I would be as respectful and caring as you can. I don't think she's going to try and take advantage of you, and I wouldn't do the same. Don't try and manipulate her. It's only going to blow up in your face. If you can show her, you get it, you're in therapy, you're working on your issues, and, if you ever want to talk or see me, give me a call. I think if you can present yourself in that way, she could reconsider things in the future. But, he's upset because he hasn't heard from her in 5 days.
And she would call you why?
Yeah. She's been, unhappy for years, according to what you said,
I think his smartest move would be to say to her, I don't know if I'm really hearing what you're really saying. Because I think that's probably, I bet you she's saying to her girlfriends, it's like talking to the wall. I try and try and try to tell him, but then he just puts it back on me.
Yeah.
So maybe you could make an agreement to be sure you listen to each other. And you can check that by repeating it at the end. What did you hear? And is it the same as what I thought I said?
Sure.
Yeah. But you can also kind of feel his anxiety.
Yeah.
And we're sorry about that. But he's got to deal with that other thing. It's very serious. Being domestic violence from a parent at any age is not funny, but certainly not when you're a grown-up. Talk about insulting and demeaning and hurtful.
Yeah. I think as he watches the channels, and I believe he said he was doing the workbooks. He had sent me like a little follow-up email or something. I believe that as he gains some insight and understanding, he'll be able to shift his attitude and how he comes and presents himself to her, and she'll pick up on that. And 10 years is a long time to be with somebody.
Oh yes, for both of them. I'm sure she misses him as well.
And I don't think she would come back right away, but
yeah,
if this goes smoothly without any fighting and getting nasty over assets and stuff like that, she might see him in a different light.
In a different light. And I've had this chat with several guys who were so angry at the wife, they couldn't do anything but come across as angry. And of course, she's not going to respond to that.
Yeah. This is a tough situation.
This is sad. I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
I hope they get a chance to resolve it.
Yeah, so do your best to handle this maturely and stay motivated. You got to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? She could come back. She could come back in the future. I don't think it'll happen right away. But you've been together for a long enough time.
And you have a child together.
Did they? No, they didn't. They didn't.
Oh, okay.
They were trying to have
trying
children
to have
together.
a child. Yeah. Okay. But if you can put yourself in her position, what would you want? to hear if you were in her position. Not you have to go to therapy too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because everything from what we read sounded reasonable.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
All right. Tough situation.
We're sorry.
Yeah.
But you have a way out. Work on yourself. For you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It can only pay off one way or the other.
But don't berate yourself either and think you're going to die if you don't hear from her. It's what, 5 days?
Yeah.
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 It may take her a while to reach out.
I would suspect months.
And would she call you to make, to have a nice contact with you? Chances are you'd be upset with her if she called you.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true too.
Yeah. Call me. We'll have a nice conversation about, I don't know, last year's vacation. But if she calls you, she probably expects to hear what's wrong with her.
Yep. All right. Tough situation, like I
Yes,
said.
sorry.
And of course, if you want to get a coaching with us, you can do so on the website. I
Sure.
do email coachings and I do Skype. Margaret, of course, is available for Skype coaching.
Sure. If you feel that I can be helpful, please sign up.
Just click on Margaret on the top of the website to do that. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And we will talk with you soon. To get my help personally, go to AskCraig.net and click on Schedule Coaching and choose the option that works best for you. I do email coaching or Skype. To schedule a coaching with Margaret, click on Margaret on the top of the page and order a Skype with her. For the Knowledge Creative Healing course, click on the link at the top of the page and click Get Started Now.